here on the Hillbilly Voodoo channel. This here is going to be the exciting conclusion to me building a slip roller. Yeah, if you think me building a slip roller is exciting, you should probably get out of the house more. But anyways, if you've been following along on this channel or following along on this build, so far we've got our two bottom rollers built, the side plates, our top roller built. Now we need something to connect these two parts. Now I need a plate of steel for either side. We need a handle to turn this roller. And we need something that the bearing can sit in to slide up and down. Last episode we machined a little square round block type things that the bearings are going to sit in. Now we need to build a plate that's going to keep those bearings in there with a bolt or a screw of some type that's going to force this roller down. Let's see what type of hillbilly voodoo we're going to have to come up with to create all this stuff. Now I've grabbed two more pieces of steel here. We can make these into our side plates. Now if you've been following along, this is more chunks of that piece of I-beam that we've been cutting up so far to build most of this stuff. So, what I want from these side plates. Most slip rollers, they take the bearing holder and everything off the top to pull the metal after it's been rolled off. Now this slip roller, I want to be able to take these side plates off, right off the roller, so that all I have left are these two rollers. So that when I'm working on some other type of round stock or pipe or something, I can use these two rollers as like a pipe roller. Or even if I want to move heavy stuff around on the floor, I can roll it on, you know what I mean, like it's going to be like a pipe roller. After you take these pieces off, it'll just be two bearing rollers. So, in order to do that, we're going to have to bolt these plates onto the side here. So, when we want to remove the stuff off of the middle, off the top roller, once we roll it all up, we'll take the two bolts out of the side here, pull it off, the bearing, the adjuster and everything will come off, and you'll just be left with the roller, and you can slide your metal off. Sounds like a good plan to me. Sounds like a good idea. Whether it's going to work, I don't know. We're going to try it out. So, let's start marking this stuff up. Obviously, we're going to need a slot in this plate so that the end of the roller, the rod here, can come out the end. And we're also going to need two pieces of steel welded in a channel on here, so that this is going to go up and down. It'll have the bearing in it. It'll probably be on this side, but you can't see it on that side. So either way, even if it is on this side, it's got to go up and down. So we need a slot that's big enough for that rod there that comes out of the end of the roller that the bearing's on. You guys know what I'm talking about. Why am I explaining this? Just watch me do this. So let's first off find center. Well, let's mark this plate here at the height of this. Just to give us some reference lines anyways. And then let's find center of this plate. Once we get everything all marked out on one plate, we can tack these two plates together and drill and do all our shaping and everything, so we have two identical plates. So what do we have for width here? 4 inches. Let's go in the center. So this is going to be the center of our slot. So we'll need 2 bolt holes on the bottom so that we can bolt that to that. Does that make sense? Yes. So we'll need 2 bolt holes on there. So let's go 1 inch in. Now we need a slot. So let's line this up here as close as we can get to the center. Remember guys, we're just building a slip roller here out of a bunch of junk. It's not like we're planning on going to the moon with it. Doesn't have to be super precision. We just kind of gotta have a thing. Okay, we have an idea of where we're drilling holes and such now. We'll center punch those. So what we're going to do, drill 2 holes here, the same size around as the shaft that the bearing rides on. And we're going to connect those 2 holes with a slot. And we're going to drill 2 holes here, and that'll be how we bolt the plate onto the end. I got our up or downy slot thing cut here for the top roller. Everything's all nice and smooth on the inside, and got it drilled, tapped, bolted to the bottom roller plate thing. Now I'm going to take our bearing, slide it over there like that. Take that little bearing holder thing we built, put it over there like that. Maybe like that. And I found a bunch of scraps of 1 inch, I think it's 1 inch. It's probably 1 inch, 1 inch steel. And I'm going to build a little trackway for this bearing to slide up and down in like that. You guys see that? I try to get it as tight as I possibly can, but loose enough that it's going to slide up and down. So what I'm going to do is tack it up top here first, and then remove my little blocks, slide everything down, and then tack it down on the bottom and cycle it up and down a few times, see if it works. Like most of my subscribers know, I don't do any welding on camera because my welder is not exactly awesome, and I swear and curse a lot while I weld, and I don't really want to edit all that out. So yeah, I'm going to tack these in here, move it down, tack it down on the bottom, and then I'll bring you back and we'll see if this goes up and down the way I'm planning it to. We've got our little tracks tacked in place here, and it goes up and down in them. Now we need something to push down on this roller. I was thinking a bolt, but I don't have any that are long enough threaded the whole length. So I'm thinking a piece of ready rod, and the only piece that I really, oh wait, I think I have some outside that can be salvaged off of another project. I'm going to put a piece of plate across the top here with a hole drilled in it for the ready rod to push down on. We'll weld a nut on the top or thread it or whatever, and it will push down on there. Now I might make some type of little U-shaped retainer on here that will hold the ready rod so that when we thread it up, it pulls the roller up, and when we thread it down, it pushes the roller down, kind of thing. Well, let's go outside and see if we can find that piece of ready rod I'm thinking about and see if it'll work for here. Now, if I remember right, the piece I'm thinking about is an axle out of a drift trike. Yeah, a drift trike. Let's see what, yeah, it's right here. It's my wife's old drift trike. She doesn't ride it anymore, so that, if I remember right when I built this, that axle is just a chunk of ready rod that goes all the way through there. And I have to take the tires off of this anyways to put them on my hand truck dolly so I can move my super awesome new planer that I got for Christmas up to the shop. So let's take those wheels off of there and see if that is an actual chunk of ready rod that goes through there, and if I remember that right. Well, look at that. We got ourselves a piece of ready rod, and we got tires for our hand truck. And we even got nuts on the ready rod for our project. Cool. And my wife doesn't ride the drift trike anymore, so it's all good. If I hide it somewhere, she would never know anyways. But I wouldn't do that because that's not cool. I got a piece of that ready rod cut here, and I turned the end down so that it's got no threads on it. It's the length that we're going to need to push this bearing down. Now I need a little hoop type thing on the end of this bearing retainer holder thing that I can put that in. I'll weld the washer on the bottom there and the washer on the top with the hoop in the middle, and it will pull up and down on that bearing thing. You guys kind of following that along? So I found this chunk of square tubing, and it is just about the same width as our little bearing holder thing here. So I'm going to poke a hole through here. We'll put our little bearing holder thing there. Or a bearing holder, no, the little stud bolt thing. Put that through the hole. Weld a washer on the inside and a washer on the outside. We'll cut it in half, and then we'll have two of them, one for each side. Does that make sense to you guys? Well, if it doesn't make sense, you just stick around here for a second and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to build. Now let's see if this makes a little bit more sense to you guys here. We got our piece of ready rod. I'm going to stick a washer on there like that. We got our piece of square stock tubing that we cut in half with a hole in it. I'm going to stick that on there like that. We're going to weld another washer on there like that so that this will spin freely. And then we're going to weld all that onto that like that. Yeah. All that like that. So when we thread this up, it will pull up on there, and when we push it down, it'll push down on there. Totally makes sense to me. Don't know if it's making sense to you. I'm going to put it all together, and if it's not making sense to you now, it'll probably make sense once I put it all together. So let's do that. So now that you can see it, I guess all my babbling probably makes sense. That's our hoop there. Washers welded on either side. The bolt goes up like that. Now we need a plate to go across the top here with a hole drilled in it so that I can thread that nut down onto there, weld it onto that plate, and then when we spin this, it will go up and down in that track. So I'm going to go outside and see what I got. I'm pretty sure I got a bunch of chunks of steel around that have already got holes drilled in it, and they're probably a lot better about that size. So I'll go find something that we can stick over the top of here and weld it on. And then, like I said, thread that nut down, weld that nut on the top, and see what happens. Well, we're going to know what's happening. We'll see if it's going to work. I managed to find two plates that were the perfect width and, well, perfect size. A little bit thick though. I lost a little bit of the depth of this roller. It doesn't quite go down as far as I wanted because this plate was a lot thicker, and then I didn't account for the nut. But that being said, it's not really that much. I could always thin this down or make a longer bolt here. But now you see what we're doing. Spinny down, spinny up. Did exactly the same for the other side. So it looks like this is all going to work. It actually works pretty slick. You see, I kind of lost some. Oh, when I get down near the bottom here, I wanted this top roller to go down a little farther in there, but it's pretty close, so it'll go down about another, I don't know, half an inch there. And I've got probably 3/4 of an inch till it bottoms out, so I really didn't lose a lot. So now I think the next thing we need to do is create the crank, the handle that's going to spin this around, the fool to tool interface. I'll have to go wander around and see what we can find. I want to make it removable. I'm going to put a piece that'll slide over the top of this shaft. I'm not doing it on this side, I'm doing it on the other side, but I'll show you on this side. I want to machine a piece that will fit over the top of this shaft that I can run a bolt through, and then I can attach the handle, the tool interface to it. I want the handle to be adjustable so that I can slide it all the way out, slide it as far as I can out to give good leverage, and then slide it back in probably halfway or whatever, so that if I'm rolling small stuff, I can roll it in here. Big stuff, I can roll it out there. You guys know what I mean. So let's go wander around and see what we can come up with for a handle, or some type of material that we can build a handle out of. So let's go outside and see what we can find that we might make a handle out of. Well, that stuff is probably a little too beefy. And I don't know. The piles are getting a little slim on longer stuff. Got lots of short stuff. Guess we don't really need to make it all that long. Guys see something good, yell, right? Yeah, right. Don't want it too wimpy that it's going to be fold up like a cheap lawn chair, but I don't want it too thick that it's going to be a bear to handle. Haha, we're making a handle. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to go look around on one of the other piles. I don't really see anything of substance. Guess we could maybe straighten out that metal ring there, and that's pretty heavy duty. Well, there's a short piece of square stock down there. See it down there? Way down there. It looks fairly long. Maybe I'll dig that out of there and see what we can make out of that. Yeah, I've kind of decided I don't want to get down on my hands and knees and dig around in there. So let's look around a little more first before we commit to that. Nothing there. If you look at the handle on a winch, it's really not that long. It's like about a foot long, so we probably don't really need a huge handle. Hey, there's a piece of square stock on the ground right there, and I don't have to get down on my knees to get it. So I think we'll grab that, and that's what we'll start out with. Yeah, that looks like a good thing. Brought our piece of metal in the shop here and realized that it was full of mud and frozen, so I threw it on the wood stove to thaw it out. Imagine that, eh? Something laying in the dirt full of mud and frozen. What a surprise. And figure out what size this is. I think it's 1 inch. Yeah, that's what it looks like. 1 inch. So I'm gonna go find a piece of round stock that is bigger around than 1 inch that we can make our little piece to go on the end of the roller there. If it's not making sense yet, it will in a minute, guys. Hold on. Well, I managed to find a little slug of metal here on the ground that will go over the end of our roller, once I bore it out, of course, to the right size. And I found a chunk of square tubing that is bigger than this square tubing that we're going to use for the handle. Now there's a seam inside of there. I don't know if you guys can see that seam in there. Semen. Semen. Anyways, there's a seam inside of that pipe that won't allow it to go over the top of that pipe. So I'm gonna cut a chunk out of there about an inch, maybe 2 inches long. File that seam out of the inside. That will slide over the top of that handle, and then we will weld it to there so our handle will be adjustable. Hopefully this is making sense. If not, stick around for a few more minutes here and we'll show you, and it will make sense. So this is what we ended up coming up with for a handle here. Once I got that seam filed out of the inside of that chunk of square stock, our handle slid in there nice. I built a little thumb screw here so that you can put a wheel like that and get major leverage on it, or put it in like that so you can spin it fast. Piece of material I machined out to slide over the end of our roller here. I made it a little bit big. It's kind of a little wobbly, but there's a pin in there. It's not really going to matter all that much. It's, like I say, there's a little bit of slop there. And I put a little roller type handle here so you're not getting blisters when you're cranking it. Kind of works out pretty neat. Yeah, this makes it a little bit more manageable when you're rolling small stuff or thin stuff, I guess. And when you really need the horse on it, then you crank her out there and cool. Well, I think I'm gonna run outside there and see if I can find some sacrificial materials that I can try to roll in this thing and see if it's actually gonna work. You guys cross your fingers while I go out and find something that we can squeeze in the rack here. Well, I grabbed a couple scabby pieces of metal here. This one's not super scabby, but it's a little bit, I think it's 3/16 of an inch. And that one is, I would say, a little better than 1/8 of an inch. That's the stuff that we were making our ribs out of for our ultimate ATV, our off-road bug-out buggy. And I have no idea what that's from, but they should make good test pieces anyways. This one's not exactly a stellar piece of material here, so let's see if we can roll that up into something. Really have this thing bolted down to the bench here also. I don't know how well it's gonna stay put. I don't even know if I need to bolt it down, but well, kind of looks like it's gonna do the rollery thing. See if it'll actually make a tube or not. I guess I gotta kind of crank both sides down at the same time, don't I? Or we're going to end up with a cone instead of a roll. Ah, that works pretty friggin' slick, guys. I figured it would take a lot more force than that to roll that stuff. Like I said, I've never used a slip roller before, so. Huh. It's really not rolling a big beefy piece of metal here, so. Woohoo! Yeah, looks like that's gonna work. Awesome. Let's try a little thicker piece here. Get that in there. Yeah, that's got a little bit more. Might have to extend my arm out there a little bit. Ooh. I'm not going to roll that right up into a big ring because I don't need it as a big ring, and I'll probably need to chop it up for something else later on. Cool. Well, there you go, guys. Got a slip roller. Hopefully it will come in handy when we come to building our rims for our big HillBilly party balloons. That actually worked out pretty damn good. So until next time, guys, use what you got to make what you want, and I'll see you later.